If you voted for Donald Trump, I would honestly love to hear your perspective on something. And I promise I'm not trying to set up a trap to go after people. If you're willing to provide your perspective, I will be incredibly respectful as anyone is willing to be to have this conversation. And I don't want people fighting in the comments, but obviously from our perspective, we feel like we have heard a lot of authoritarian rhetoric from Donald Trump, and that is scary. And I understand that for a lot of people, especially on the right, they don't think that those are credible threats. And that's what I want to understand. I'm not looking for people to flood my comments with the left has been fear-mongering. I understand people feel that way. What I'm trying to understand is why? Why do people think that this is not a credible threat? I want to understand what it is that goes through your head when you hear him talk about things like lining someone up in front of a firing squad, or the enemy within that needs to be eradicated, or removing checks and balances against his power. Are you thinking, well, he just says crazy shit to get people out to vote, he's not actually going to do it? Or I think he'll be good for the economy, so I'm willing to take the risk? Or even if we move towards...
This creator seems to be nice and respectful and seems to be genuinely asking questions. He's asking, why do you guys not see these things the same way we do? And I think this is fair. I think we should have a reasonable discussion. And I want to bring this to your attention. So do you notice that you told us about 3 things that you interpreted, or that, you summarized what you interpreted that he said, but you didn't actually show us the clips of him saying these things? It's hard to answer your question when we don't have the full context of the situation that you're talking about. So I could find context for 2 of the 3 examples that you gave. The first example you gave was this.
I want to understand what it is that goes through your head when you hear him talk about things like lining someone up in front of a firing squad.
Okay, now to your credit, you made a follow-up video admitting that you put your foot in your mouth when you said this. I respect that. But one thing I want you to pay attention to, again, is you just came out and said that. You didn't show us the context of the clip. And I think this is an important distinction. But let's actually get the context of what Trump said.
Then, go a couple of years forward or go now. And I don't blame him for sticking with his daughter. But his daughter's a very dumb individual, very dumb. She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it.
Okay, so there's the context on the first situation you were talking about. Now, to make this point even more, let's look up the definition of a war hawk. Like, what is a war hawk? A war hawk is a person who advocates for armed conflict or escalating an existing war rather than attempting to resolve issues through peaceful manners. So Trump is saying that she's a person who likes to go to war, who advocates for that more so than a peaceful way of doing things. And the point he's making is she's not the one who's actually going to war and being shot at. She's not the one who's actually fighting the battles. What he's saying is if she actually had to have that experience, we'd see how much she would like that, and we'd see if she still wanted to be a war hawk. So what he's saying is that she's not actually feeling the results of going to war. She's not really dealing with that. And I think that's pretty clear. I don't really think it's left up to interpretation. I mean, the context is pretty clear with what he's saying. My question to you, on the other hand, would be, why was this interpreted as a firing squad? I mean, even if you think about it, firing squads don't give an individual a rifle to shoot back. That's not how it works. So respectfully, I think part of the reason why we interpret things differently is because we actually go to the source and get the source information and get the full context surrounding what he's saying, compared to many people on the left trusting what their left-wing sources tell them. So let's go to your second example.
Or the enemy within that needs to be eradicated.
Okay, since you didn't provide us any context, I can only guess what you're talking about. And when I was researching it, I found this clip.
What are you expecting? Joe Biden said he doesn't think it's going to be a peaceful election day.
Well, he doesn't have any idea what's happening in all fairness. He spends most of his day sleeping. I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within, not even the people that have come in and destroying our country. By the way, totally destroying our country. The towns, the villages, they're being inundated. But I don't think they're the problem in terms of election day. I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military, because they can't let that happen.
Okay, so when he talks about the enemy from within, he's talking about people with ideologies, ideals, belief systems, and that have been doing things that he thinks is damaging to the country. Now, I'm not saying he didn't say eradicate them. I would just need you to show us him saying that, and then we could have that conversation. Because again, in your videos, you're not showing us any proof of anything. You're just telling us what Trump said, and then expecting to get our reaction off of your interpretation or what you've been told Trump said. But you're not actually showing us what Trump said. And in a lot of cases with Democrats, when you add context to the things they're saying Trump said, or you go to the source material and actually see what Trump said, a lot of their arguments fall apart. For example, like you said, you put your foot in your mouth. Again, when you go back and look at the context, when he's talking about Liz Cheney, it's very clear what he's talking about, and it was not a death threat. He was not threatening violence in any way. Okay, and then here's your third example.
Or removing checks and balances against his power.
So I'm not saying he didn't say that. Maybe he did. Just show us the proof of him saying that, and then we can have the discussion about it. Because in this video, you basically said, why aren't you guys taking these things the way that I'm taking them? But it seems you're not actually going to the source and seeing what Trump said. It seems you're in left-wing circles and you're getting your information from either if it's left-wing media or left-wing pundits or left-wing people on TikTok or whatever. Because the right was not pushing the whole firing squad narrative. It was the left. So a question again I would have for you is, are you actually going to the source material and actually seeing what was said and actually making sure you're getting the full context? Or are you just trusting what your sources are telling you without them actually showing you the full context?